Welcome to today's deep dive. So, you sent us this stack of sources today that, well, it completely flips the script on how we normally talk about digital avatars.
Oh, absolutely. It really turns the whole baseline assumption of, our digital lives completely inside out.
Right, because usually when we discuss creating an alternate persona online, it's framed as an escape. You put on a digital mask so you can be a dragon slayer in a video game,
Or
or
maybe you just construct this slightly taller, like infinitely more successful version of yourself for social media.
yeah, exactly. It functions as a deflection, right?
Yeah.
A way to keep the messy physical reality of who you actually are safely hidden behind this highly curated screen.
Right.
But looking through the creative notes and the project files you provided, we're exploring this completely inverted premise. We're looking at a creator who is using AI, digital imagery, algorithmic tools, but not to build a fake persona to hide behind. They're using it to dig through the noise and discover an identity that feels authentically them.
Yeah, they're literally using the digital mask to find their real face.
It's wild.
What's fascinating here is that this isn't just an art project. It's a really profound look at how humans can use fluid digital tools to anchor themselves to concrete emotional realities.
Yeah, and today's stack of sources is incredibly unique. I mean, we're looking at private creative notes, AI generation prompts written in English and Russian, haunting French poetry.
And draft copy for an album release, too.
Right. And all of this orbits around a central figure named Liya Bellmaris and a musical project called LUX 1.43 AM/PM.
It's rare to see the raw scaffolding of a project laid bare like this.
Totally. So our mission in this deep dive is to explore this fascinating concept of identity prototyping. We really want to discover how technology, geography, and art can intersect to help us find our inner signal in just a really noisy world.
It's a great mission.
But to get there, I mean, we first need to establish who or what Liya Bellmaris actually is, right? Because that sets the foundation for the whole experiment.
Yeah, and reading through the source notes, the very first defining characteristic of Liya is actually a negation.
What do you mean?
Well, the creator explicitly states that Liya Bellmaris does not exist as a single fixed image. Like, she is not a concrete individual you could just point out in a crowd.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She manifests through these shifting forms, varying voices, fluctuating emotional states. But, and this is key, the fluidity isn't random at all.
Right. There's a structure to it.
Exactly. The AI prompts they use for her visual representations follow this highly deliberate aesthetic language.
Like the physical descriptions in the notes.
Right. The text talks about generating images of a woman with a warm olive undertone to her skin, large almond eyes, and a very soft, non-angular structure.
Yeah, and the notes spend just as much time defining what she is avoiding.
Right.
Like there is a highlighted instruction stating she is explicitly not an Instagram model.
Yes, they are deliberately filtering out that harsh, hyper-perfected geometry we always associate with influencer culture.
They want a completely different vibe.
They want what the prompts call a Mediterranean intellectual.
I love that phrase.
Right. The visual tone is cinematic. It's meant to evoke the mood of, like, an independent French film, or maybe the quiet melancholy of an Italian coastal town in the off-season.
So she's a person by the sea.
Exactly. Someone who belongs to port cities and cultures of transition.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. It's like using AI as a mirror rather than a mask. Instead of generating an avatar to escape reality, you're trying on different reflections to figure out which one actually matches your internal compass.
That is a perfect way to put it. The AI functions as a psychological mirror. And this is really the core mechanism of identity prototyping.
How so?
Well, think about it. When someone types a prompt into an image generator, they're taking this abstract internal feeling and forcing a machine to spit out a visual output.
Right.
The creator looks at that output and gets an immediate internal feedback loop, resonance or rejection. They look at it and go, no, that lighting is too cold, that expression is too confident, that just doesn't feel like me.
So they tweak it.
Exactly. They adjust the prompt. We all do a version of this online, honestly, curating different versions of ourselves.
Yeah, that's so true.
But here, the value is in viewing identity as a fluid prototype rather than a rigid category. Liya isn't a fake identity meant to trick anyone. She's a canvas being used to recognize what is becoming real for the creator.
But, I mean, if an identity is treated as a fluid prototype, constantly shifting forms and aesthetics, doesn't it run the risk of just falling apart?
Oh, absolutely.
A constantly shifting form eventually just dissolves into chaos unless there's something holding it together.
And that is exactly what the source material addresses next. A fluid system needs an inflexible container to keep it from spilling over.
The strict internal framework.
Right. The creator builds this container using poetic French lyrics for the musical side of the project.
The notes describe the music as this blend of modern ambient sounds and late chanson.
Yeah, so think of that intimate storytelling style of French singing, but like slowed way down and layered over cinematic synthesizers. Plus this modern poésie musicale, which is essentially spoken word poetry with a rhythmic backing.
And through these lyrics, they establish three distinct pillars.
Yes, the three pillars of the inner compass: France, the sea, and architecture.
Let's break those down.
Mm-hmm.
The text defines the first pillar, France, as the language of inner form. And the imagery is just so evocative.
It really is.
It talks about learning silence at the windows of Paris, cafes breathing like unfinished letters, the smell of rain on stone.
It captures this deep contemplative interiority that establishes the internal emotional state.
Got it. And then the second pillar shifts outward to the sea, or la mer, which is a language of orientation.
Right, because you need direction. The lyrics describe the rhythmic sweep of lighthouses cutting through coastal fog. There's this great line in the notes about how no one controlled the ocean, but there was a signal stable enough to go home.
So the ocean is the chaos of the world, and the lighthouse is the signal guiding you.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the third pillar, architecture. The language of thinking.
This one is so crucial. The lyrics describe architecture as how to stand up when everything else loses its shape.
Wow.
It's the map drawn so you don't get lost.
So you have inner form from France, orientation from the sea, and physical structure from architecture.
And there's this haunting bridge in the poetry that ties it all together perfectly. It goes, even the cloud needs a shore. Even the light seeks a coast. And even the future still seeks a human presence.
So what does this all mean? If France is just being used as a metaphor for inner form, does this project even need to be tied to a real-world location? Or is France just acting as an emotional shortcut for a specific cinematic mood?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is absolutely a shortcut, but a functionally vital one.
How so?
Because when you're dealing with AI art and digital avatars, the huge danger is that the work feels cold, soulless.
Right, because it's just math.
Exactly. The human brain knows it's looking at an algorithm.
Yeah.
So by grounding this abstract digital art in deeply physical, romanticized concepts like rain on stone or the ocean, you prevent it from feeling sterile.
Gives it a pulse.
Yes. Architecture forces a chaotic mind to obey gravity. France brings centuries of romantic baggage. It anchors the digital cloud.
Okay, so they need a physical anchor, but here's where it gets really interesting. How do they handle the fact that their primary anchor, this place they call Gare de la Mer, the station of the sea, is completely made up?
Right. The creator just casually admits in the margins that this station doesn't even exist.
There is no famous French landmark called the Station of the Sea, but they workshop all this imagery of a train station right on the ocean at dusk, where railway lines and the tide and lighthouses all intersect.
It's a total fabrication.
But it's almost like the Mandela effect of geography. They've built an imaginary place that is so perfectly aligned with our collective romanticized idea of coastal Europe that we just instinctively accept it as real.
I love that observation. That's exactly what's happening. They're leveraging pattern recognition.
Because France actually is full of coastal railway lines that accidentally create this exact poetry.
Yes. The creator points out real-world examples in the text that validate this feeling. Places like Villefranche-sur-Mer or Le Tréport-Mers.
Places where the train drops you off right where the pavement ends and the water begins.
And the best example they use is this real station called Montauvert-Mer de Glace, which translates to the Sea of Ice station.
Even though it's high up in the French Alps and nowhere near the ocean.
Right. But it uses that exact poetic structure they want, a transit station and a sea. It proves that emotional resonance, tapping into that universal feeling of transition and longing, matters so much more than strict geographical accuracy.
A train station is a rigid path, and the sea is the boundless unknown. Putting them together is just brilliant.
It creates the perfect psychological boundary.
So we have this fluid identity of Liya Bellmaris. We have the rigid internal architecture of French poetry and the sea. And we have the imaginary train station anchoring it all. All of this culminates in the final outputs from the sources, the LUX 1.43 AM/PM albums.
Yes, this is where we see the ultimate realization of the project.
The sources include these drafts for LinkedIn and social media posts announcing the albums. And the creator has this massive epiphany.
They really did. When they started, they were experimenting with all these forms. music, AI, storytelling.
Right.
And they thought those forms and mediums themselves were the interesting part.
Which is such a common trap, getting obsessed with the platform or the new tech.
Totally. But then they realized the true core of the project wasn't the AI or the synthesizers, it was the recurring theme.
Light, coastlines, lighthouses, finding direction when things get foggy.
Exactly. And that realization gave us the defining mantra of the whole project. The forms changed. The signal remained.
But if the forms are constantly shifting from visual AI images to French music to text, how does someone avoid just creating a chaotic mess? Is having a core signal really enough to anchor a creative project?
This raises an important question, especially for how we all live today.
Mm-hmm.
In a world of absolute information overload, form is inherently unstable.
Oh, for sure. Algorithms change every day.
Right. So if you anchor your identity strictly to a form like, say, being a short-form video creator,
Yeah.
you're vulnerable. The moment the tech evolves, you're lost.
You pitched a tent on a moving glacier.
Exactly. But a stable signal, like the metaphorical lighthouse from the poetry, operates independently of the tech weather.
So the mediums just become different frequencies broadcasting the same truth.
Yes. Having a stable signal is the only way to maintain cohesion. It's a lesson in holding onto your core values while adapting to new mediums.
So looking back at this whole journey, we started with prototyping a fluid identity with Liya Bellmaris, trying to find an authentic reflection. Then we looked at building that framework of inner forms and imaginary coastal stations to keep it grounded. And finally, realizing that the underlying signal is what truly matters no matter what form it takes.
It's quite a ride.
It really makes you think. Like, if you look at your own life, how often do you get caught up in the forms of your daily routine or your digital presence while completely neglecting the core signal of who you actually are?
That is the big takeaway here. Because, as we talked about earlier, even the cloud needs a shore.
Right.
Digital spaces still desperately crave human grounding. And as our world gets just completely saturated with AI-generated forms and endless synthetic content, perhaps the ultimate luxury of the future won't be the ability to create infinite identities.
Where will it be?
The quiet, unfakeable presence of a single human signal.
Wow. That is something to sit with. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. And to everyone listening, keep seeking your own lighthouses in the fog. Have a great day.